I think Siobhan got y'all as far as the purchase of the property. I just wanted to make a note that in the history that she talked about, it's fascinating when you think about it that an organization that started in 1983 had already fundraised and purchased a building by 1990, less than 10 years. And this was all spearheaded by individuals who were blind and visually impaired. What a great success story, almost like a Fortune 500 story. And I hope I'm not repeating what I'm sure Siobhan has said in many presentations before, but I always think that's just such a cool thing to let people know. So the building was purchased in 1990. After that, we had to get renovations done. So in 1992, there was a HUD grant worth $4 million that allowed us to start renovating the building. We got a $3 million establishment grant from LRS to hire personnel and to start doing programs. In 93, the first phase of construction and renovation was complete, and in 94, the second and final phase was complete. The first in-house services were the summer of 94. However, in about a 2 to 3 year period of time while renovations was going on and they had the establishment grant from LRS, they had personnel that were going out in the community and in the area teaching things like Braille and orientation mobility, as well as different types of assessments like low vision assessments and things like that. So they were providing services probably as far back as 91, once we had bought the property in 90. As far as the training center goes, though, the first 6 clients that we had lived upstairs above my head where I am in the John Lemaire Art Administration Building. All the offices where Siobhan is and all the grant people, they were all renovated rooms initially. And that summer, while they were still renovating parts of the complex, they actually lived upstairs. That was the dorm area and a little common area when you get off the elevator. The first 6 residential clients started there. So as renovations were happening, staff were moving from one building to the next building as the buildings were getting tended to. By the time I got here in September of 94, all of the residents had moved to the main wing, which most of the people who have been around know our main residential area. And that they had been in classes at least since the summer. So I think Siobhan wants me to also tell you what we were doing or what our mission was, and of course where we are today. The mission of the training center, of course, is to provide those skills and training to the blind and the deaf-blind and the visually impaired and older blind that promote independence, gainful employment, and community integration. Community integration certainly is a big part of what all these chapters do. It also helps us in referrals. The significance and the importance of the organization is key. We would not have this training center if it would not be for the organization. We would not have this training center if it would not be for that major fundraising operation of bingo that we had. And in the first 3 years of doing bingo, they raised over $1 million. That's what allowed us to get this property outright, which I'm sure Siobhan had told you guys about earlier. What we do, our main core service here is adjustment to blindness services. And that consists of several pieces. We have orientation and mobility. Most people know that's the cane travel, but it's a little more than that. It's, in this day and age, we have a lot of different means of transportation. So we learn orientation and mobility, which allows us to utilize a cane or the white cane. And then we also teach people how to utilize those services that are out in the community already, such as buses, such as paratransit, such as cabs. And of course now with Uber and Lyft, all these things make it a little easier to travel. We also have home and personal management, which is basically how you live on your own. We're teaching skills in your bedroom, your kitchen, your bathroom, how to clean, how to cook, how to organize, how to actually live independently. And between that and communications, which is another area of training, which is learn where you learn Braille, whether it be with your Braille or slate and stylus or those different devices, as well as any type of recording devices or any other little adaptive aids that you might need to use. When you combine all of that, we also talk about money management and things of that nature, because you can be the best traveler in the world, but if you can't manage your money, there's only so far you can go underneath that bridge to live with that cane. So you want to definitely be able to manage your money. And of course, the big area that everybody always talks about is our technology area. And of course, we're teaching people all of those adaptive programs that allow you to use everything that everybody else that's so-called normal uses in the business world. So we teach you the adaptive programs, and then we teach you how to utilize that in your basic suites for Microsoft like Word and Excel, as well as your iOS systems, your cell phones, your iPads, and all of those different variations. Technology has definitely given persons with disabilities, particularly the low vision and blind, so much more of a level playing field. The technology is so important. So, and the other thing that we do when we can is also peer counseling, which is just how to adjust to your blindness loss, as well as how to adjust to doing services within a facility like this. We have clients that come in as day clients who might live nearby, but we also have clients who live here for a duration of time while they're training, anywhere from 6 to 9 months. They live in a dormitory, and then at the end of that training, 1 to 3 months, they will transition into what we call a supervised independent living apartment, which is on site. So we get an opportunity to see everything that we taught these individuals in an apartment setting. So they have the residential staff pulls back and they're doing more on their own. So instead of eating in the cafeteria, they're cooking and preparing their meals themselves. They're going out in the community and shop and doing things of that nature. So if they have to do a retread, they can do it right here on site. We can see what they're doing. If they make a mistake in the apartment and they've never lived there before, we've got an opportunity to pick up the pieces and reteach that specific area if they didn't get it during the initial training. We have an excellent staff. The majority of our staff are blind, deaf. We really pride ourselves on leading by example. I mean, that's what we have to do. And we think that's probably the most important thing. Along with the support groups that we have, again, with the chapters and things of that nature, that's what makes us so successful. Those are your key areas. Of course, we have multiple grants. We have the Older Blind Grant for 55 and older, which is called Project COPE. That consists of home-based trainings. That consists of what do you call the competent living programs, group trainings. They have equipment that is distributed at no cost to the consumers, CCTVs and devices like that. And whenever they can't be used anymore, we get them back and we recycle them to someone else. We also have multiple outreaches that are associated with that. We have a lot of deaf and deaf-blind services and interpreting services where we can coordinate interpreters for people in need. We have a support service provider program specifically for the deaf-blind, where that individual can assist that person to get where they need to go, as well as let them know about their surrounding area and everything that's involved in that. It's a little more involved than just a straight interpreter. It lets them really know who's around, what's around, and they get a little more detailed information about what's happening around them. We also have a hearing aid program for people that are 50 and older that meet financial need, and we have an equipment distribution program specific to deaf, hard of hearing, and deaf-blind. That's a state grant that we can provide some equipment to those individuals. We have a different grant, which is a national grant, which is called the National Deaf-Blind Equipment Distribution Program. That gives us a little bit more flexibility. We're statewide, and it's specific to communication for persons who are deaf-blind. So anything that allows this person to communicate. So we have Scott Crawford, who most people know, goes all over the state implementing this program. So someone who's deaf-blind can utilize their cell phone just like everybody else. They can maneuver in those communication access And they do that by combining. Scott's very creative. He combines different devices with different things to really make it work. And that's another way to allow persons who are deafblind to not be as isolated. So we're very, very proud of that program as well. We also have a Randolph Shepherd Managers Training Program. Anybody who knows, if you go into the state buildings or the federal buildings and you see either a concession stand or a cafeteria, or if you see vending machines, that's usually operated by a blind vendor. And we've been very fortunate for the last 15 years to do the training for the state for that program. And we're very, very proud of that program as well. Am I leaving any programs out that y'all can think of? I got a peanut gallery behind y'all.
No.
Okay, so let me also talk about, while I still have you guys here, again, I talked about the importance of chapters. Chapters are so important. The organization is so important. Again, you guys are the word of mouth. Everybody jokes about the blind vine. Well, that's one vine that we like to grow, because we want everybody to know that ABL is here and that we provide the services that people need so desperately. Particularly after a time that we've just been through with 2 years of COVID and being able to maneuver without that, much less with COVID, and then now the aftermath of that and whatever else might be coming down the road. These services are so important. So let that blind vine grow. Let everybody know about Affiliated Blind Louisiana's Training Center. We need you guys, and just let people know that we're here. There was one other thing that Siobhan asked me to talk about. She wanted me to explain something about the different entities that we have and how they kind of allow us to do certain things. Affiliated Blind Louisiana initially is a consumer-based organization. That's what the state organization is. Affiliated Blind, or ABL Incorporated. That's what pretty much started all off. Of course, I think you might have had a Acadiana chapter first or right around the same time. So you have the chapters and then you have the state organization. When they started doing bingo and charitable gaming operations, that's when they created ABL Enterprises. That was another entity that allowed us to do some things related to the bingo operations. Mainly, one of the most important things was that it allowed us to have a second entity, to have a second license. Because back in the day, when we raised that $3 million in the first 3 years, they only had bingo maybe 3 nights a week initially. So John and his people in their wisdom thought about having as many entities as possible to be able to play as many games as possible, because the more games you played, the more money you would make. And thank goodness they did it when they did it, before there was the lotto and all of the other things that we see now, because that was that time period where all of that money could be made. So ABL Incorporated works in conjunction with ABL Enterprises to operate bingo functions. Later, after Mr. John had passed, a few years later, we took the training center entity and we actually created a license for bingo with that. So all the chapters that have played or that are still playing bingo, which is mainly Acadiana chapter now, ABL Inc., which is the state, and ABL Enterprises, everything that they make, 75% goes to the training center to help us provide these services, in addition to any other grants or any other funding that we have. The training center is unique because that entity allows us to take 100% of those bingo proceeds and go right back into the training center. Now, don't misunderstand me. That other 25%, that's for state, that's for chapter, that's for everything else related. Services, you can say, any type of blind, deaf-blind, low vision related services that ABL puts on really is 100% funded out of those bingo operations. So, is there anything else you'd like me to talk about, young lady in the back of the room?
Woo-hoo,
Did I make my 10-minute mark? I just want everybody to know that if you have the time, come and visit us, come and set up a tour. Even within my own staff, we talk about this numerous times. We forget because we're doing the work every day. Sometimes we forget just how large of an umbrella that we have and how many services that we provide. We provide a lot of services. We do a lot of work. We didn't even talk about the fact that we spearheaded apartment complexes for low income and specifically to persons with disabilities. The fact that initially we ran the paratransit services for 15 years. ABL has had his hand in many things that have helped propel persons who are disabled, specifically who are blind and deafblind in this community and this state. So, with that in mind, sharpen up those leadership skills, be a good leader, let that blind vine grow so everybody will know that Affiliated Blind of Louisiana's Training Center exists and it's here for you. Thank you.